Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Sorry, we were a couple minutes late getting our technical capacity in order over here, but thank you everyone that has joined us online, and thank you everyone that's here in person. We've got a good crowd, and we appreciate your interest in your town, and we appreciate you being present today. We've got a pretty loaded agenda. I do want to tell you that if you have questions that are outside of the agenda, we'll give you an opportunity to ask those as we work our way through the program this morning. We're going to work hard to have you out at 9:30, which is our typical ending time. So the first item on our agenda today, and we really appreciate Dr. Raynard Washington driving all the way up here, but Dr. Washington is the fairly new, but not really new anymore, Mecklenburg County Public Health Director. And he has done a great job in helping guide us through the last few years and became the director when his predecessor retired. And we just appreciate him continuing to provide the updates related to COVID, any other health matters you might have on your mind. And there's some others probably floating around out there, Dr. Washington. Is that true? Okay, well, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you, and thanks for being with us.
Of course, thanks. Always my pleasure to be with you guys. And it was not that long of a drive. So, let me start with COVID. Give a quick update of where things are with COVID. We are actually in a pretty good place. As you all know, we had a surge toward the end of the summertime, which is pretty much completely cooled off now. And so we are pretty much all of our indicators, wastewater, the hospital, everything is I would say green. Things are good. So that's good. The hospital activity is picking up, but that happens this time of year all the way. So it's fairly common that you will go to the ER and we'll have to wait for a long time. So that's happening as it usually does. And also our hospitals are struggling with staffing just like everybody else's. And so you'll see some of those delays on their side because of that. The big news on COVID right now is the new boosters, the bivalent booster, which actually has been tailored to be more responsive to the Omicron subvariant, or the Omicron variant and its subvariants. And so those are now available at the health department. They're also available at Atrium and Novant. Some CVS pharmacies have them, but not all. But you may find them at some locations. But we are offering them at both of our health department locations. And you can come in whenever you want to get one of those. Those are recommended for anyone who hasn't had a booster in the last 2 months, any adults, and we do expect them to be available for kids as early as next week. The booster front is getting a little clearer. So I do think this will be the last sort of short-term booster. And I think it's sounding like we're going to be moving towards more of an annualized schedule. So this should be the last booster until next year, if all things go well. And so that is sort of the expectation that this will start to follow the same trajectory as the flu shot. And so you'll get a flu shot in the fall as well as a COVID-19 booster. From what we can tell, COVID's going to keep circulating. There aren't any new subvariants of great concern. There is one, I believe it's 2.75, that is circulating in the UK right now. That's causing a little bit of activity, but it doesn't seem to be behaving any differently. But we're keeping a close eye on all those things here. As you may or may not know, we have a pretty robust sequencing program here in Mecklenburg County. And so we still sequence our specimens on a weekly basis to keep track of the latest and greatest as it relates to variants of COVID. It happens sort of in the background, but it does happen. We also have a pretty good wastewater surveillance system. So we are able to monitor about 45% of the county via wastewater. So that's very helpful for us. Any questions about COVID before I switch topics? Yes, sir.
Nationally, you see 400 or 500 tests a day. Seems like a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. So I always remind people when they're like, oh, why are you still talking about COVID? COVID's over. It's not. And unfortunately, people are still dying here on a weekly basis, not every day, but on a weekly basis. Unfortunately, we lost a 2-month-old last week here in Mecklenburg County due to COVID. And so I think as we talk about COVID and the flu and the cold are not the same thing. COVID is a lot more lethal than both of those other two viruses I just described. And so it is important for folks to get vaccinated. It's important for people to take precautions, especially when you're around people who are not eligible to be vaccinated, like little kids and older adults who may have compromised immune systems. So it's still a threat. And so I think that's important while we keep talking about it, because it is still here. We've gotten back to life in many ways but it is still very important for us to watch.
So you can take the flu shot and booster concurrently?
Yep, you can get them at the same time. Now you might not feel good the next day, but you can get them at the same time. I have personal story. I talked to my mom this morning. She got both of hers on Friday and she had no symptoms at all. So but it just depends on the person. But
I'll give you a testimony too. I got both of mine last Wednesday and did fine. I had my Meliella and my Tylenol, and I swear by that. So anyway.
Any other COVID questions? All right. The other hot topic in public health right now is monkeypox. I'm sure you guys have heard about monkeypox in the news. We've been our first case of monkeypox in Mecklenburg County was back in late July. And we have been responding ever since as aggressively as possible. Monkeypox is a virus that typically is present in some countries, but not here in America or most developed countries. It is a virus. It's in the orthopox family, so it is sort of a little cousin of smallpox, but not nearly as much of a threat as something like smallpox. And a different family though than like chickenpox. So for reference, but it does behave much more like chickenpox than it does like smallpox. So it is largely a self-limiting virus, meaning that it cures itself. Your body is able to fight it without any intervention. Most people, if you're a healthy person, you don't need any kind of medical intervention. You just have to isolate so you don't spread it to anybody else. It is spread by skin to skin contact. So it is individuals with monkeypox have lesions on their skin. It looks much a little bit bigger than a chickenpox lesion. And they similar to chickenpox, they come over all the body. Typically they start wherever you had your first point of contact. Most transmission that's happening right now is happening between sexual partners. And so it's individuals who are having that kind of intimate contact that are touching each other. It is not believed to spread from things like a hug or a handshake, unless of course the person has an active lesion on their hand. But it is not as transmissible as something like COVID. Everybody has COVID on their mind, so they're thinking everything's so easily transmitted, but this is very difficult to transmit. You have actually got to have contact with the person. So just being in the same room, the likelihood of transmission is incredibly low. We're learning more about it as obviously as time moves on, because we don't have a lot of it here in America. We don't know a lot about how it behaves, and so we have to learn sort of in real time. There is a vaccine for it, which is available. It's a 2-dose vaccine, Jynneos. It is currently only for individuals who are in very high risk categories are eligible. The current outbreak that's happening here in the US is predominantly among men who have sex with men, but it is starting to spill over into other networks now. And so we are seeing cases among women, cases among heterosexual individuals as well. And so, but the majority of the cases right now in Mecklenburg County still are in among men who have sex with men. What else can I say about monkeypox? The vaccines are only available to folks who meet 4 qualifications. Any persons living with HIV, or any men who have sex with men, or any women who have sex with men who have sex with men, or anyone who has had a recent STI in the last 90 days is eligible to be vaccinated. So it's a very limited vaccination criteria right now because we only have a limited supply. This is the same vaccine we use for smallpox. And so we're using the national stockpile to respond to this outbreak. So we are not able to vaccinate everyone at this time. But if you're not in those groups, then in general, you're at pretty low risk. Any questions about monkeypox? I have one more topic and then I'll sit down. All right, West Nile virus. We have had more cases of West Nile virus in the last month than we usually have in a whole year. I believe we're up to 3 cases, and we have at least 2 or 3, actually, I'm sorry, 4 blood donations that have screened positive for West Nile virus. So West Nile virus spreads via mosquitoes. And so we're just making sure that we are communicating out with the public that people should remember to, especially in the fall season, as people are outside more, make sure you're wearing insect repellent. Make sure if you have any standing water at your home that you remove the standing water. So like any kind of pool covers or any kind of outdoor furniture that might have water puddling in it, you want to make sure you get that water out because it becomes breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And so you just want to make sure you have your general protections and obviously light candles when you're outside and put on bug spray. That's what I got. Any other questions about anything else related to the health department?
Any questions for Dr. Washington? It's
What'd you say?
I can't believe Dr. Mike didn't have a question.
You don't have to be kind. Come on. I look forward to your questions. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming out. So the we've got two additional items that we're going to cover in a little more depth. I see transportation up here. Is Troy, are you next or is Wayne? I don't know how the slide deck is flowing, but it looks like transportation. Is that right, Maylin? Oh, we're doing Troy first. Okay. So Troy Fitzsimmons has been our Director of Park and Rec for 10 years, Troy, 12 years? I've lost track. 100 years. But oh, wait, okay, y'all do the math. So Troy does a great job and is a huge reason why our Parks and Rec department are as good as they are. He has a lot of knowledge, a lot of background, a lot of creativity, and we've just made fantastic progress under Troy's leadership. So Troy, we appreciate you giving us an update. There's lots going on. I continue to be excited about our Emerald Necklace. It's making some really great progress and some great plans ahead. And you're getting ready to hear about all of that. And also about a lot of good things going on in our parks. I got a question just a few minutes ago about our winter programming, particularly related to ice skate rink, Troy. So be sure to put that on your list to address. If you don't, I know you're going to get a question about that. So thank you very much, and look forward to your presentation.
All righty. Thank you, Mayor. Hey, everyone. I appreciate being here tonight to tell you a few things about our burgeoning greenway system, as well as what's coming up this fall. We all been through a long, hot summer, so we are cranking it up with our programming and fall events. But first, we're going to talk about the progress we've made with the Cornelius Greenway system, which we dub our Cornelius Emerald Necklace. Oop. Okay. All right, sorry, thought the clicker didn't work there. So back in 2015, we put together a comprehensive Parks and Greenways master plan. It called for over 16 miles of greenways, 18 miles of multi-use paths, and the bottom line is that it connects where you live to where you want to work, shop, recreate, and congregate all together. So you'll see here all these lines on the map. I call this my spaghetti plot. Anyone with young kids might recall, way back when they ate spaghetti, they'd throw it all over the place, and that's kind of what this looks like here. But there is a method to the madness with this that I'll get to. I'm not sure this clicker's working at all. So additionally, Mecklenburg County has a comprehensive greenway, thank you, program. And you can see here all the lines on the map. This is throughout the entire county, but can you see sort of what's going on up in our neck of the woods here? Yeah. Thank you, Matt. There's kind of a coalescence of greenways, a network forming up in through here, which is as dense as down in Charlotte itself. So a lot of headway has been made, but they've got 64 miles of greenway altogether and 18 miles of multi-use paths. Did I click that or did you? Oh, I think it's working now. Okay. So it all started off, first one, which technically is in Davidson, but it's on our eastern border with Davidson. South Prong Rocky River Greenway opened in 2006, 2.3 miles altogether from South Street, where the Davidson K-8 school is, all the way down to Plum Creek Greenway, or kind of across the street from Huff. Now, we looked at the whole network overall because people don't want to just stay in Cornelius. They do want to go into Davidson, Huntersville, and points beyond. But this was a critical piece right here that was already built that we took advantage of. Next up, we did McDowell Creek Greenway Phase 1, which opened in 2009, 1.5 miles. It takes you from Burkdale and Highway 73 up to Westmoreland Road. As you walk through it, you'll go through a portion of Robbins Park, and Westmoreland Athletic Complex is very close nearby. Very next year, Bailey Road Park, multi-use path. Now, this was done in pieces altogether, and some folks may think, well, that's just a sidewalk. It kind of is, but it is an important piece to our greenway system. It is a 10-foot wide sidewalk, so it's every bit just like a greenway overall. It includes 1.3 miles and takes you from 115 Bailey Road, wrapped around Huff High, further on down Bailey Road. There's a couple of small segments still yet to be built, but it will tie in out by Mays Road. In 2015, the Diverging Diamond opened. I know this got a lot of conversation when the DDI went in, but very important piece of this helped connect East and West Cornelius. There was absolutely no way to get from east to west or west to east Cornelius without taking your life into your own hand across that bridge deck or even down at Westmoreland. Well, this provided 0.2 miles, which connected sidewalks on either side and gapped the Great Divide. In 2017, Caldwell Station Creek Greenway opened. That took us from where the multi-use path at Bailey and 115 ended, a little bit north past Fomex, take a left back behind Oakhurst, Glen Oaks Green, and then ultimately empties out right across the street from Home Depot on Highway 21, 2.5 miles altogether. Antiquity Greenway, 2019, only 0.6 miles, but it connects downtown Cornelius to the South Prong Rocky River Greenway in Davidson. So now we've opened up miles and miles of trail altogether. By the way, this portion of Greenway is also part of the Carolina Thread Trail, which is a 15-county network of trails that can take you anywhere up into Catawba and Iredell County, all the way down into South Carolina. Plum Creek Greenway, 2020, only 0.5 mile. But again, a very critical link that we were trying to create, because now, as I mentioned, we can go from downtown Cornelius into Davidson, wrap around to the south, come down on Plum Creek Greenway, and then hit the multi-use trail at Huff High School. 2021, 1.6 miles McDowell Creek Greenway Phase 2, which took us from Westmoreland Road, where McDowell Creek Greenway Phase 1 left off, and on up to Magnolia Estates and West Catawba Avenue by the Publix up there. So you put the two together, and now we have over 3 miles of Greenway. So when you look at it all together, kind of time lapsing this out, you can see a pattern starting to form here. These are all the greenways that I just went through that were developed. And this is part of our Emerald Necklace. We are 3/4 of the way done on a 13-mile Emerald Necklace altogether. We have 3 important gaps left. Where where McDowell Creek Phase 2 ends, from there on over to the DDI, which would be via Jeton Road Extension and Sefton Road. Plans are in the works right now for multi-use path and bike lanes for that. We also have from Caldwell Station Creek Greenway by Home Depot over to McDowell Creek Greenway 73, which is part of a larger DOT project that will provide multi-use paths to tie that section in. And then lastly, getting from the DDI back to downtown, we just completed a conceptual plan this past year that would provide multi-use path on one side of the street or the other to get us from point A to point B. So when you put it all together, 13 miles that folks can enjoy, again, connecting where they live to where they want to recreate, play, congregate. Additionally, a benefit of this is that now that you have a network together that people can go take a bike ride, a big loop like this, you'll have some local tourism. So folks from Charlotte will come up with the bikes, hop on the Greenway, take a lap, probably stop at one of our microbreweries, get some lunch. Maybe if it's early in the morning, get a cup of coffee like we are right now and a donut, and enjoy the day up here in town. But
So-
there's more.
So Troy, how much
Yeah.
do these greenways cost?
These greenways cost anywhere from $1.5 million to $2 million a piece. So that is a big capital investment, no doubt about it. However, the town has been very strategic in chasing after grant money as well as leveraging partners. So the town hasn't even put in for half the cost of these greenways overall. But because of the 2013 bond, we had the leverage we needed to apply for greenway grants through NCDOT, the Carolina Thread Trail. And then additionally, we worked with Mecklenburg County Parks and Recreation to build a portion of some of these greenways as well. So they've been a very active partner. One other benefit of that partnership with Mecklenburg County Parks and Rec is that they take over operations and maintenance of the greenways. They have the staff, they have the expertise to do it. We're a very small department. As everybody knows, we just got hit with a pretty good storm this weekend. There are trees down on McDowell Creek Greenway. They are getting cleaned up here shortly by the county. But the nice thing is that that's taken on by the county and not borne by the town.
So one thing in addition to that, therein lies the importance of our relationship, both on the elected level and on the staff level with Mecklenburg County. We work really, really close with them. I know some of the county commissioners, although they couldn't get here this morning, they were watching because they asked me for the link. So I'm sure quite a few of them are watching out there, and want to express our thanks to them for their support.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have been possible without them. So, yes, sir. Good question. It's a two-prong approach. So it is our Cornelius PD for our section if it's in Davidson, but also an additional benefit with partnering with Mecklenburg County. They have park rangers that patrol the greenways as well. Okay. But there are a couple of more pieces outside of the Emerald Necklace that are getting ready to get done. And you'll see here with these dashed lines, and I'm going to focus in on two of them because they'll be opening within the next 6 to 8 months. Okay, so these two right here on the southern end. So Plum Creek Greenway extension, this would come from where Plum Creek Greenway and the multi-use path on Bailey Road is right now. Oh, doesn't show up there, sorry. But the green line kind of going from the middle down to the bottom left there. That's a half mile. That'll tie in to the Beverly community at Quiet Brook Lane. Again, a short section, but ultimately it continues on all the way out to 115 by the North Regional Recreation Center. We have to take this one step at a time. And then next up, on kind of the top right there, that's the new North Regional Recreation Center on 115. They've already built multi-use path along 115 and around the center to the back of Andrew, what's the name of that street? I always forget. It's in Caldwell, First Street. I think it's like Tract Drive or something like that, Railroad Track. Thank you. So they've already built Greenway from 115 to there. Now they're going to continue on from that street all the way down to the existing McDowell Creek Caldwell Station Creek Greenway over by Pool Place. That's just a half mile altogether with what they've already done. It's about a mile, and that should open sometime in the summer of 23. So when you put it all together, this is what our existing system looks like right now. And over here at the corner, I've got some brochures as well as maps if you're interested. So meet our greenways. There's a convenient code inside you can scan, and that will take you to our webpage where you can find more information on the greenways. And then lastly, if you prefer a paper map, I'm a bit old fashioned. I like a paper map in my pocket, but you can see here where you can park, where there's bathroom facilities and water along the way. Out of curiosity, how many people have been on our greenways? Oh, I see a lot. There's a couple of hands down, so now you have no excuse not to go. All right.
Any other questions on the Greenway portion? Yes, sir.
fiscally responsible investment than perhaps road day expansions? I know those are also.
I honestly do, because I truly believe we can't build our way out of it with roads and cars. I mean, we see the congestion around, people need alternative means. And I'll give you a good example of avoiding getting in a car. Yesterday, my wife and I, we live near Greenway in Huntersville. We walked up to Rosedale, grabbed a cup of coffee and shopped around up there. That saved a car trip overall. But people are definitely desiring these. If you looked around during COVID, at my window overseas, Antiquity Greenway, it was amazing. I counted in 1 minute, 25 people either coming or going on the Greenway. It has died down a bit, but I guarantee you go out there on a nice day, it is crowded.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? That's a great question. So it's hard to see on the map on this screen, but if you take a look at our comprehensive master plan, there is a multi-use path that is proposed down Jatan Way, but it only goes so far, and then it's relied upon by just sidewalk connectors from there. That is deep on the capital improvement plan. I got a feeling it's quite a ways out on that. Yes, sir. The oldest one that would be considered one that we built or participated in would be McDowell Creek Greenway Phase 1, so 73 to Westmoreland. Correct. Correct. Yes, sir. On the southern part, it will be Highway 73 via multi-use path that NCDOT is doing. And then also we are working on a project. I didn't focus on it today just because it's a little bit further out, but there will be a multi-use path across the Westmoreland Road bridge deck to connect over to McDowell Creek Greenway. Yes, sir. Yes, that is down closer toward the Gilead Road exit, just north of that, but that'll tie in from the Greenway I was just mentioning, Torrance Creek Greenway, over to downtown Huntersville. Okay. I do have a couple of more things. I'll be glad to stay around after to address any questions. So 6.1 miles altogether we have right now, 1.3 miles of multi-use paths. As I mentioned, it's peak season. Fall season's in full swing, although rained out this weekend, but we have a litany of programs and events coming up. So a couple of environmental programs. First up, Urban Hike Saturday, October 8th from 9 to 10. We start at Town Hall. That is a free event, but come on out. We're going to address two components. One, our Heads Up Cornelius campaign, which is about ped and bike safety. We have a police officer that will be coming out to help folks understand what the law is in terms of at crosswalks and the best, safest way to get across those crosswalks. Then we have a naturalist with Mecklenburg County coming to talk about the flora and fauna along the Greenway. It's only about a mile, maybe a little bit more hike altogether. Next up, Hooked on Cornelius. If you have any kids or grandchildren who have never fished, this is a wonderful way to get them to drop a line into the pond and catch some big catfish. I saw the state stock our pond at Robbins Park, the North Pond, the other day, and they're pretty good size overall. So pre-registration is required. It is free. Lake Norman Wildlife Conservationists come out and they help the kids learn how to fish. Also, we have a tackle loaner program too. So if you want to borrow a rod as well as some tackle, come on to the Parks Department and you can check it out for free for up to 3 days. 22nd annual All-American Dog Show should have happened Saturday, did not because of a little storm named Ian. But we have rescheduled it already. It will be Sunday, October 9th, 3 to 6 p.m. You can still register if you'd like. We extended registration since we delayed it. So $8 if you register online, $13 at the day of the event. Laketoberfest, October 15th from 4 to 9 p.m. at Bailey Road Park. This is one of our signature events. A dozen plus microbrews from Cornelius and around the region, bands, other types of entertainment. We're going to try axe throwing this year, if anybody's interested in that. Hey, Colin said he'll put an apple on top of his head, and and Todd said he's throwing. But we have Unknown Artist and Groove Machine coming out. They were the same bands as last year, but we heard great reviews about them, so we're bringing them back this year. Halloween Treat Trail. This is something that we did as we came out of COVID, but this is for the young kids to come on out. We'll have local businesses who sign up. If any local businesses are interested, please let me know after this meeting, and we'll see what we can do to work it out. We set them up along the trail at Bailey. The businesses come out, they provide candy for the kids, opportunity to meet the parents, pass along some information to them. We do have pre-registration for the kids, so we know exactly how many to anticipate and how much candy that we'll have to hand out. And also, we're doing a movie, Hotel Transylvania, when it's all said and done. There'll be some other fun activities for the kids, like a hayride, tractor hayride, and then we're going to do pumpkin chunking as well. So that's only for the kids, though, only for the kids. Next up, Cornelius Davidson Youth Basketball. This is our silver anniversary for youth basketball. Pre-COVID, we had 900 kids in our league. So far, based on registration opening on October 1, we're at 125 as of yesterday. So again, if you have any kids or grandchildren interested in playing, please get them registered quickly. Cornelius residents have a 1-week priority registration before it opens to all. I'd also like to thank our title sponsor, Lineberger Orthodontics, for sponsoring the entire league. We also have team sponsorships available if anyone's interested. And then lastly, just a couple of other things rolling into November. Veterans Day on November 11th at 11 a.m. at the Veterans Monument. Santa Paws in the park. If you have a friendly dog, wants to come out and get a picture with Santa, that's on November 12 from 12 to 2 at Robbins. And then lastly, Light Up Cornelius, November 26th, always a Saturday after Thanksgiving, 4 to 7 at Town Hall. And that can, if you like what you're hearing, then please follow us. Websites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Who was it had the ice rink question? There you go. So maybe we'll get you to stay just a minute and Troy can give you a few more
Yeah, I'll
details
be glad
about
to talk to you.
about that piece of it. That's okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's a dream of ours out there at some point. So we'd love to talk more about that. Thank you. Any other
All right.
questions about our Parks and Rec?
All right.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
All right. Thank you. One other important aspect of our parks and greenways and all the good stuff is that it's an amazing economic development driver for our town, meaning that it brings jobs here. Companies find that quite attractive to relocate in an area. The more jobs we get here, the more people we can keep off our roads and help our transportation challenges that we have, which is a nice lead in to what you're going to hear from our Deputy Town Manager, Wayne Herron. There's been a few updated reports from DOT, I think. Some are good and some are not as good as we'd like. But anyway, you're hearing them about as soon as we are hearing them. So we'll pass those on to you, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions. So Wayne, thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Just want to talk a little bit about the process of how roads are built, because a lot of folks talk to me and they say, well, Wayne, we hear your presentation quite a bit, but we're not seeing orange barrels. We're not seeing work happening. And there's a lot that goes on before you actually see the orange barrels. And I know most of you know this, but whenever we put a project on the list here locally or at the Regional Transportation Authority, or the state puts it in the improvement program and funds it, they work maybe 18, 24 months in design, and design is difficult and it takes a while. There's so many agencies we're required to go through. There's a historic review, there's environmental review. So many agencies have to sign off, and that all happens behind the scenes. You don't hear about all that. And then once the agencies sign off and we get a right-of-way, NCDOT will hire right-of-way agents that spend up to a year negotiating with property owners. And the state's philosophy is that we don't go in and drop the hammer on people. We negotiate with people. We give citizens the benefit of the doubt. We want them to get the best benefit they can, whether through compensation or ever how it works out if they decide to donate the property. So that takes a while, and it takes a while to transfer that property. We have to talk about easements. We have to talk about anything that encumbers the property and how that works. And then there's a period of time where we work with the utilities to relocate. And that's actually the hardest part, because the utilities don't always prioritize us in road building projects. Most utilities have customers, and they have stakeholders and stockholders that they have to report to. So their goal is to create business and develop business. So they actually get paid very little to move right away and utility lines. So we're kind of at the bottom of the list. And we've talked to the legislature. We would like to make requirements that ask utilities to move a little faster. But that's a struggle. And I will say that all of that, utilities and contractors are now coming out of the pandemic having supply chain issues, and that's affecting us as it is everyone. And not only supply chain issues, they're all having trouble hiring help. I don't know what the deal is, and I don't know how the economy, I'm not an economist, but everybody is having trouble hiring help. So a lot of folks who had people working for them or had so much on their staff, they just don't have that anymore. So all the projects that are out there can't move as fast as what they once did. So I say all that, we have 13 projects in Cornelius. Now that's phenomenal. Now a lot of folks realize the reason we have 13 is we went decades not getting our fair share, and we were getting nothing. So now it has all come to fruition that we're on the list for 13 projects that we need direly. So I'm going to go over a few schedules of what DOT believes we're up against and where they're at. Some have slid a little bit, and the good news is some have stayed on course. So let me just jump in. 2022, which is this year, the year that we're in, we actually did this ourselves. This is a town project. We did not rely on DOT to do it, but it's Jim Street. We're under construction now. We were scheduled to have this completed by the end of the year. The schedule has slid just a little bit, and it's supply chain. We can't get the pipe. The pipe is not available. So we have to wait on the stormwater pipe to come in. Contractor believes we'll get it by Christmas, and we should be able to complete this project early in 23.
Tell everybody the benefit of Jim Street, Wayne.
You can't see it on this map, but what Jim Street is a connector where you'll be able to go from 115 all the way over to 21 without getting on Catawba. So those of you who are here today, those of us at Town Hall, citizens who listen to us at these meetings will know about this back route and will be able to use it. So you'll be able to avoid Catawba. I already used Nanny Potts Lane. Nanny Potts Lane is a great back shortcut. I turn on Nanny Potts, I can make it up to Town Hall. It cuts about 6 minutes off my trip. And it's hard to believe that Catawba takes you 6 minutes, but if you're either waiting on school or if you're waiting on just the normal traffic backups, Nanny Potts is a great shortcut. So this is a great connector here at Jim that'll allow you to get from 21 over to 115. So as soon as we're done, this will be a great connector that you can use to get from one side of town to the other.
And this is a town-funded project that
Yes.
Your bonds, your local bond, town bonds supported that.
So 2023, this is next year. So Catawba 21, and I had a very nice, I want to say I had a very nice lady call me last week and say, hey, I know we did improvements on the diverging diamond. It's not working as efficiently as I think it should. And she said, I know that you guys at the town have probably thought about that. And she goes, I'm probably not the first person to think about it. So why don't you tell me what's going on before I just get mad and cuss you out? So I said, well, hey, I appreciate you asking, because yes, we do think about that every day. And so I explained to her that we knew when we built the diverging diamond, it would not function at its highest efficiency. And we needed the bookends that we call them, the project on Catawba 21 and the project on Torrance Chapel. Those two bookends, once we finish that, will improve the efficiency of the diverging diamond. There's just only so much capacity you can add without making improvements on both ends. So after I told her about the bookend projects, one of them being Catawba 21, that we're setting it up to add capacity so that over time, DOT might change the configuration at the intersection as far as left turn lanes. People will have capacity to back up in the roundabouts, and it'll change how people back up at the diverging diamond. And so she saw the benefit to that. So we're very pleased that this project is still on schedule. You'll see in red, it says June. We slid by 4 months. It was in February. It's now in June. I almost didn't put that because I thought, well, that's not significant, but I want everybody to know what's going on, be totally transparent. June is still very close. So we're glad that this project is starting in June, and this will be a major improvement. This will be about a 12-month project.
Excuse me, Wayne.
Yes.
Are you saying that we're building roundabouts where those two circles are?
Yes. So yeah, the roundabout on the left is in front of Hampton Inn. The roundabout on the right is down below where QT and the new State Employees Credit Union. Over time, what will happen is as DOT, what clogs up an intersection is every signal phase. Every time the signal turns red and you stop, that's backing traffic up for a certain period of time while the other ones are green and they go, and that's a phase. If DOT can cut the phases down and there's less phases, traffic moves faster and it's more efficient. So the goal here over time is that while to start with, they're not going to eliminate any left turns, but over time, as 21 backs up even more, DOT will eliminate the left turns that will allow you to back up into these roundabouts. It adds capacity on the north and south side so that instead of turning left at the light and holding it up for a phase, you'll turn right, go through the roundabout, and then go south to Huntersville. It does work and it is more efficient. Now there's no roundabouts down at Huntersville at exit 25, but if you've ever been through, and my wife asked me, she goes, I feel like I'm going around my rear end to get to where I want to go to do the round thing at exit 25. But I was showing her how efficient it was by not allowing people to turn left at the light there where Target and Chick-fil-A and Burger King is. Well, after she looked at it, she said, oh, and she remembers how bad the traffic was at exit 25 before they did that. So it does move more efficiently, and studies show that it will move more efficiently. No, and I think this is pandemic related. I think people coming into the bank, the numbers have just gone down, and I think this is with all banks, and the mayor might know more about that than I would. But the last thing I heard from them is that they are still going to build a new facility, but they might downsize the type of facility they build. They might not build as big a facility. So I think they're evaluating what they need to do coming out of pandemic and what bank services are going to be moving forward in the future. North Cross Drive extension. This one will also start next year. Right now, they're working on some right-of-way issues. They're working with Energy United on a substation, trying to redesign. So what this will do is what you see on the screen here, there will be a roundabout at Westmoreland and Alexander Chase. That'll cut you off, taking you down North Cross Drive extension. You'll be able to go all the way down to 73. It'll be a nice alternate connector so you don't have to go down West Catawba. This would have been nice for a couple things. When the gas line broke, it would have been a nice alternate route during that day. And also, whenever traffic backs up on West Catawba, just on a busy Friday afternoon, this would be a nice alternate. So Torrance Chapel, this is the other end of the diverging diamond. So the reason I have this slide up here, originally this project was going to be 3 roundabouts. The cost ballooned up to the point where there's a share between NCDOT and the town. Our share went up to $11 million. The town decided that that was not acceptable. We just couldn't spend $11 million on one project. So we went back to DOT and said, as much as we hate it, we're going to have to pull the plug on Torrance Chapel. So we eliminated the 3 roundabouts, and DOT came back and said, there is still benefit to intersection improvements at Catawba Torrance Chapel and Catawba 1 Norman. So at Catawba Torrance Chapel, I thought I'd listed them out, but let me just see if I can remember. There will be a dedicated southbound turn lane to get on I-77. If you're ever trying to get on 77 and you get hit by somebody who's at that red light, you know we need that turn lane. So we'll have that dedicated lane if you're heading down 77 south.
That is an additional lane, right?
That's an additional lane. We will also extend the turn lanes going westbound. So as you know now, you come across the diverging diamond and you try to get in that lane to turn on Liverpool. It's a short turn lane. That's going to extend more back to the intersection. So if we can even add 3 or 4 more cars, that will be a big benefit. Now, DOT also says they're going to add capacity turning toward Torrance Chapel, going toward Fresh Market. There will also be a change in the configuration coming out of Liverpool. They'll add, make that 3 lanes instead of 2. There will be no elimination of left turns. All left turns stay. So a lot of people are happy with that. Now, DOT says at a minimum, if we can do that, we will hold on to 2045. So that's good that we can do that and hold on to 2045 before we have to make any major improvements. At 1 Norman, we're going to add. That means if we make these improvements, we can hang on without killing ourselves to 2045, that we don't get into a gridlock.
The year 2040.
Yes.
It's beyond ourselves.
It's beyond my my expiration date as well. Yes.
And one quick comment related to that. I know that myself and our board is really pushing for an exit 27, which will definitely download some of this traffic off at exit 28. So keep your fingers crossed on that. It's
Yes.
moving in the right direction.
And before I leave this one, there are improvements at 1 Norman. They'll redesign that intersection. There'll be 2 left turn lanes there. They wanted to keep that in because Chick-fil-A's already paid for that. So they said, hey, let's make sure we utilize their money and utilize what they put into the project. Potts 115 roundabout. This one's also going to start next year. It's on track. Staff met with DOT just last week on site, made some final adjustments. This one probably is ready to go more than any others. So this will be a major safety improvement for anybody who goes to the YMCA, anybody who goes through that intersection and knows now if you get stopped by people turning left on Davidson Street, or if you're trying to turn left out to go to Davidson, this will be a major safety improvement. So looking forward to that one.
Now this ties into the Davidson project as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and we talked about that last week. There was a vendor out there with us who said, well, why are we changing the trajectory so much? And I explained it was because we're going to add pedestrian and bike facilities under the bridge. And I said, if you look right now, you're taking your life in your own hands if you try to go under that bridge on a bike or as a pedestrian. So everybody was like, oh, that's great. Glad we were able to do that. So now with this design, there will be multi-use path and bike lanes under the railroad bridge. Bailey Road extension. On the right side, that's the main curve that you have in Bailey Road now. There's going to be a roundabout there, and this will come on out to 21. This is actually set to start next year as well. So this will be a great improvement on Bailey Road. It'll take a lot of the traffic off of Bailey Road right there at 131 Main and Waterman. So that'll become more of a local section of the street. The majority of the traffic will use this new section to get out to 21. It is a state project as well. The I-77 shoulder hardening, it's still in the STIP set to begin next year. What this will allow is you go from one exit to the other on the shoulder. So if you're not looking to get out into the interstate lanes, you can just go from one exit to the other. This will only be available in peak hours, morning and evening. In 2024, the Hickory Street signal. This is one a lot of people say, well, that's simple. Just go throw a signal up. There's nothing in road construction that is simple these days. Even throwing a signal up is a major undertaking. So we're at 2024 with this signal. This will be a great safety improvement. And we're working with DOT to get signal preemption for the fire department, making sure that when the bell goes off at the fire department, all traffic stops and they get to go through. So it's a design element and things that we're working with DOT on. 2026 and beyond. Now, this is one of the ones that's a major change. West Catawba was in 2024. It's now in 2026. Several reasons for this one sliding 2 years. They went through a new value design trying to reduce the cost because it got up to $51 million, trying to reduce costs. One of the things that I can definitely say is that the intersection at Torrance Chapel, at Nance Road in West Catawba was originally one of those super street intersections where you had to turn right, do a U-turn. To save cost, it's now a standard intersection. I'm not hearing anybody complain about that. Those of us who are normal drivers, we like standard intersections. But even with the reduced cost, they had to recertify the right-of-way. They're having to renegotiate with utilities. So it's now pushed out for construction in 2026. Highway 21 widening, we're still out. We think that's going to be 2031. 73 is in 2027. And that's it. So I'll stop there. And any questions real quick? Yes, ma'am. Well, that's for that particular intersection. And well, that's a good question. You say all this development, but actually, and that's a good point to have a discussion on. We actually have the slowest growth rate of any municipality in Mecklenburg County. We are at 0.6%. So much of what you're seeing where people are pulling permits today, I told somebody the station in Antiquity, they were like, well, why did the board approve those apartments? Well, that was approved in 1979. But a lot of developments don't pull permits till 10 or 15 years later. But it is actually not that much. Now, granted, our traffic is bad, but in the traffic studies that we do, it's okay that we don't like development. It's okay that we want to slow it down. It's okay that we want to study it and we want to do the right thing. But I always want people to know the reality that when we do the traffic studies, over 50% of the traffic is not generated by us. Over 50% of our traffic every morning when you go out, look at West Catawba, half of that is going from Lincoln County to Mooresville. It's not even generated by us. Half of it, 115, Charlotte to Mooresville, Mooresville to Charlotte. So what we always want to talk to the board about is it's okay if we want to slow growth down. That's our decision. We can do that. But let's make sure we do it for the right reasons. If we're only doing it for traffic, stopping our development for traffic is not necessarily going to create a better situation for our congestion.
Have
So-
y'all heard about the development going on in Huntersville? Massive development, and in Mooresville, right through there. That's what's hitting us.
Yeah.
It really is. It's not this 0.06 growth.
So a lot of our growth is our neighbors' growth, but we have to let it pass through. We have to deal with it. And we don't have any control over that. But our board is doing an excellent job of managing what we should do with our growth and what we feel comfortable with.
Yes, you get the suggestion that we don't get the tax base.
That's right.
Right.
Well, yes and no. Right now, as you know, when we had the election last year, one of the first things the board did was adopted a growth management resolution saying we do not expect to approve anything in the near future until we revise the land use plan. Commissioner Osborne, Commissioner Bilodeau are leading what's called the Growth Management Task Force. They have been studying land use and what we will do for the next 5 to 7 years. They are close to a recommendation, but we essentially have not approved anything in the last year. Growth Management expects to make a recommendation by the end of the year, and they did look at this area specifically as to what should go there. Their initial recommendation is for non-residential growth along that area, office, small retail, but no residential. Yes, there's a lot of mitigation required for that. That was approved in 2017. And there's significant improvements required from DOT just for that to be permitted. A lot of right of way they have to donate to DOT, a lot of road improvements that they're paying for, a lot of connections and a lot of roundabouts. It will add some traffic, but it will not be that bad. But it's all a matter of how you look at it.
Can I just add something, and maybe Colin kind of jumped in there, is part of the vote last time around, which got 4 new commissioners, and Dennis Philadelphia voted against some of this on Manual Road. You said we were going to do a moratorium, so you did, you did that word, but well, you some kind of a short moratorium, a short step for new construction and whatever, and you're going to look at things and you did that. And I think that's great. Okay. But there isn't anybody in this room that doesn't know that we absolutely have a significant problem with roads, lack of sewers, approval of buildings. I find that astonishing that in 1979, somebody that's buried is approved what we should be all driving and subject to. And it's not right. So what you got now is you got all these developments that have already been pre-approved by other commissioners. Union County, they had a commissioner vote down there, $800,000 homes. Somebody was coming in and he was going to do a 300 unit or 600 unit apartments, right? And he was selling it by, we'll have a Christmas tree and sing carols and everything. Okay. Unbelievable. You can't do that. You can't do that to a community. In this community right now, you guys know better than I do. And Wayne, probably how many units? Can anybody tell me how many units are on the books that have already been approved? We had one. Yeah, but I mean, are we talking 1,000, 1,200, 1,500? 1,000 plus. Yeah. 1,000 plus. Okay. What's the average cars per household, right? So what are you going to add? David Wheatley, I was up there, beautiful development, nice development the other day. Talked to the guy, 57 homes, right? They're gonna have at least 150 cars up there, boats, whatever, okay? I tried to make a left-hand turn, took my life in my hands, and took me about 4.5 minutes to make a left-hand turn on the Catawba at about 11:30 in the morning, okay? So, I mean, it's very dangerous in our community. You got all these approvals, and yet we don't have the roads and we don't have the sewers. And wait till all this construction starts with construction trucks and dirt and just everything. We're not prepared.
So tell us what the road capacity is going to do for this growth. And you're right. That's a lot of units.
And I will say 2 things. One, the growth management resolution, which we don't say the word moratorium, but that has done exactly what a moratorium would. And that's why we have not approved anything in this calendar year. But when the road improvements that I just went over come, we will more than double our capacity. Now, I used to say that all the time, but I quit saying it because the average citizen can't see it until they see the orange barrels. And because see, I'm sitting around going, boy, when this is all done, it's going to change us forever. It's going to change who we are. It's going to change how we function. We're not going to know what to do with ourselves because we're going to have so much capacity on West Catawba. We're going to more than double the capacity on West Catawba. We're adding so many connections, but I quit talking about it because citizens just want to see the orange barrels, and I get that. So I'm hoping by next year, Commissioner First.
So you bringing that stuff up. This is obviously what we all ran on at the end of last year. And so a lot of those projects that are in the hopper, most, if not all, haven't even started. So we haven't started to feel that pain yet. So we all get that. So good news, bad news is those projects haven't started. Yes, these road projects are being pushed. The point of all this is the growth management task force is helping us figure out what's left to do. We know all that stuff's here. We know the roads are going to take this long. So that's why it's so important. So that said, when the growth management committee brings their recommendations out, you all need to come out and tell us how you feel about it. Because just because they recommend X doesn't mean the current commissioners are going to approve it or not. Historically, decisions could have been made at, other committees, and they said yes, and then the commissioner said no. We want to hear you guys. We ran on this, so I appreciate. I know Todd feels the same way. We appreciate that you guys are here. When you see the yellow sign that says there's zoning coming up, if you have a concern, you need to come to those meetings. I will tell you, there is a few small projects that did get approved this year. 9 times out of 10, nobody shows up to those. Now, these are not big projects, probably didn't hurt anybody's feelings, so that's fine. But as we get to these next bigger set of projects, you all need to come out and tell us, because we're only going to vote on what we get feedback on. So it's super important. So yes, there's a lot going on. We're keeping that all in mind, but just again, know that your feedback is super important. Thank you.
That's right.
So what the growth committee will end up doing is basically redevising our land use plan. They will provide feedback. There's going to be any numbers of opportunity to provide feedback on our land
Yes.
use plan when it's actually presented. So that is underway. I won't say they're wrapping up, but they're
Should be
closing
wrapping
in
up.
on the end of this process. So
Mhm.
that will lead to an evaluation of our land use plan
Yes,
for our town, which is critically important to do all the to hopefully match all the concerns
that's
that
right.
were brought up in this room today.
Good
So
points.
that's,
I'd like you guys to consider, for within the land use plan, when that was all brought out in the open, and there was quite a few people, and obviously the result of the election were a result of not listening to the taxpayers. It's, how would you say it? The planning board voted something like, I think it was 7-0 or 6-0 against Junker Road property development. And it was abusively it was sent up to the commissioners, and they just abusively did not honor that. What's the sense of a planning board? Andrew, you got the community, you've got the input, the yin and the yang, and yet we were steamrolled. Citizens were steamrolled over for that development. And now, I just talked to the principal in that development. It's pushed off, they were gonna clear ground in October. They're talking about clearing ground in July, maybe this next year coming up. It's gonna bring chaos to Catawba Avenue, all right? In trucks and, moving stuff, doing everything. What has the town done, and what are you gonna do to make sure that building site does not impact negatively to everybody in the community? We've got to be proactive, not reactive, in this community.
tell them about our plan, Wayne,
Yeah.
to address that.
Well, we actually have a very extensive methodology of working with the developer and requirements that we put in place for what they do when they build. And you're right, that development, it has changed hands from ownership. And they will have to submit to not only the town, but Mecklenburg County to go through a whole litany of requirements of what they do when they build. And you're right, it's been put off. It might be next year before they even look at breaking ground. So we'll work with them to make sure that there's minimal impact on West Catawba. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that it fits in to the best of our ability.
Okay, and can I just say one last thing, and then because Chief Black is here, I've written to the town a couple of times, and I'm not gonna write anymore, but, a couple of commissioners are here, Chief of Police is here, the mayor's here. The left-hand turns out of Old Chaton Road onto Chaton Road. The other day, when I walked, I just walked, I saw like 7 cars make that left-hand turn in about 10 minutes walking back and forth on the road. I know Chief Black has had people out there, they run tickets on some of them and whatever. If the signs are out there that it's a one-way street and you're not supposed to make a left-hand turn, it's gotta be that way. But then the worst part about it is then the people come down, if they honor that, they come down Chaton, they make a horseshoe turn on Lake Norman Cove Drive, and the traffic coming out of the peninsula at, 35 miles, 45 miles an hour, it's dangerous. You just had that big campaign of you know, the sign of safety and bicycles on the road. I mean, you know, it's not safe. The roads are not safe.
You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
so, we're right, but we've got to take some action here.
Yeah. Well, manager, do we have a plan to address that? Because we had a plan and it got changed.
And Andrew, you know, there was another water tanker up there loading up the other day. And they pull up these long tankers and they park right at the fire hydrant, right at the entrance of Lake Norman Cove Drive. So our people come out of our community, they look to make a right-hand turn. You can't make the right-hand turn in the right lane. So you gotta try to maybe come out. You got people coming down the other way, looking to make the horseshoe turn. It's danger, it's accident, it's death waiting to happen. And to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Do something, let's do something.
Answer here, Tom.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'll point to the chief if the chief needs to step in, but we do have officers that routinely patrol that area. Unfortunately, we do have people who violate the no left turns and that happens. The police unfortunately can't be there all the time. And you may say, well, hey, why can't we just put a median to prevent folks from turning left? When the board studied this a couple of years ago, it was very keen on allowing left turns out of the Brooklyn South side. And so in order to allow that, we can't put a median there. So we're at the resort of using police to monitor that. And again, we do get compliance. It is better. We have fewer accidents than what we had before. So we've seen an improvement. Now, when folks take a right because they can't turn left and they do the U-turn movement, it's unfortunate that they do that, but it is a legal movement. And again, something I've checked with the chief about that in the past. So we are monitoring that. As far as the water tankers go, I appreciate that input that there was a water tanker out there. Hopefully there hasn't been one, with the exception of that one, you know, for a
Exactly.
while.
Yeah,
Right. So I think we've resolved that for the most part.
But you're right. We need to get back on that topic and figure that out for sure.
Davidson had 3 deaths with
Yes.
similar
Well,
crapola.
I almost got hit out there, so I can relate to it. So anyway, I'm going to have to shut down our formal session. We will be around, so you guys stay as long as you want. Staff will be here, police chief, our parks director, our town manager, even our IT staff over here, and deputy manager here. We'll be here for just a little while. So thank you, commissioners, for being here. I want to acknowledge Commissioner Sansbury, Commissioner Furch. They are probably 2 of my most engaged commissioners and appreciate their support by turning out. So thank you all very much. And have a good day, everybody. We'll see you next month.